Hey, I'm Tim, and welcome to the very first episode of Tim Saying, the podcast that's all about inspiring you to grow, develop, and thrive through life's challenges. Okay, so let's kick things off with something real. For this very first episode, we're going to talk about growth and why growth is a journey and not a destination. A lot of people think that growth is this big moment of arriving. Like it's somewhere that you're going to, somewhere that once you get there, you're done. You've made it, you're successful, that's it. That's the end goal. But actually, I want to challenge that thinking today that growth is a continuous journey. It's not simply a destination, a finish line. There is, in fact, no finish line with growth. Like, once I achieve this, I'll be set. I'm good. But that kind of thinking is what stops people from growing. I know I can only speak from personal experience. And at times that in my life when I've thought, you know what, I'm done. I've made it. This is successful. I've created this and this is great. That's pretty much it. That's what kept me stuck. That's where I stopped growing. That's where I stopped improving and developing. And that's a very unhealthy place to be in. Just because something is good, it doesn't mean that it can't be better. Growth is very similar to that. Growth isn't a final destination, it's a journey. And to be honest with you, that's what makes it exciting. The fact that there's always room for growth, whether that's, let's say, in your physical fitness or in your business and you're an entrepreneur, there's always room for growth. Successful people are growth-minded people. And that's what makes this whole journey exciting. Okay, let me tell you a story. There was this one time that I set this big, shiny goal thinking, okay, once I've hit this, once I've gained this many clients and this many followers, I'll be good. And guess what? I hit it, but instead of feeling all hyped about it, I felt like restless, like something was missing, And I realized that growth doesn't come from just crossing that finish line. It's like a never-ending marathon. It's about the ups, the downs, and everything in between. And the shift in perspective is what changed how I see life completely. Speaking of running, I have some friends who love running, and I'm yet to find someone who has run a marathon and said, that's it, I'm done now. Yeah, I don't want to do it anymore. No, for every person who's trained for a marathon or maybe competes like an athlete, they always want to achieve something more and something more. Now, don't get me wrong. There's always room for contentment. I think it's very important that we are content with, what we have and where we are, as long as we're not complacent and we don't camp there. I think being content with perhaps, the material things that you have and finding joy in those little things, the big things that you have in life, I think that's contentment. That's good. But growth is, how can I make this better? Okay, I have this now. What can I make out of this? Let's say I have this X amount of money. What can I build from this? Or maybe you're an employee and you're like, okay, how can I grow in my role here? How can I be a better version of myself? I know that's such a cliche, but that's exactly what growth is. It isn't simply about hitting that one milestone and calling it a day. You think of it like there's so many different stepping stones. When you go to a garden and there's loads of stepping stones. Think of it like that. I know when I was a child, I used to love it when I would look at the road and then the ground and on the floor, you will see like lines and marks. There's drainage, and I love stepping on each one of them. And it was never ever boring, and it never really ended. I never really got bored at the age of 6, 7. I'll be hopping and skipping and jumping and leaping onto the next box and another line and going into my neighbor's garden and so on. That's exactly what growth is. It's about learning and improving, and evolving through all of these messy, amazing experiences in our lives. And this podcast it wants to do just that. I want to help you and inspire you to grow, to develop, and to thrive wherever you are. I know all of us have got challenges. It is real. Maybe for some it's personal, maybe for some it's in your relationships. Maybe for some it's educational. Maybe I have some students listening to this podcast and school's just tough and uni's tough. What I want to encourage you today that you can grow there. Wherever you are, you can grow. It's all part of this beautiful journey that you've taken on. Okay, let me tell you why growth is a journey. Here's the thing. Growth isn't this straight, neat, clean line. It's messy, it's unpredictable, it's ongoing. You really don't know what to expect. And that's just the beauty of life. It's not about becoming some perfect version of yourself. It's about constantly showing up, learning, and getting just that little bit better each day. There's this common pitfall that so many people think, once I achieve this, I'll be happy. Once I land my dream job, or once I hit this X number of followers. But the truth is that mindset leaves you feeling empty because the finish line just keeps on moving and moving. Fulfillment doesn't really come from arriving at that finish line or that end goal. Fulfillment comes from appreciating the process. One more thing that I want to encourage you is to embrace your journey. Embrace your journey. As I've been saying, in the last few minutes, success isn't about arriving somewhere. It's about showing up day in and day out and putting in the work. Whether you feel like it or not, I want to say that as well. Because sometimes, especially I feel in this, current generation, the younger generation, I feel like many young people want everything served in front of them on a silver platter. Many young people think, oh, do you know what? I want to get this amount of money and I don't want to work too much, or I want to just do this much. Well, you are setting yourself up for a fail, because the moment that you become complacent, the moment that you put half of your effort, half the work, you will get something that's half baked. So whether you feel like it or not, I want to say to you, go on, get up, stand up, do something, do one thing, embrace the journey. You've had a tough time, then let it go, move on, keep standing, keep going, keep walking, and keep running your race. It's about these small wins and not just the highlight reels. I feel like many young people just want the highlight reels, or they watch other people's success and think, I want to achieve that, or how come they can get that? Maybe if I just do this little bit, then maybe I'll get that too. Or maybe you start something and you think it's not really having any good fruit, any good result. Therefore, I'm going to stop. I've put in the work now for a week or 2 weeks or 3 months. I'm going to give up. But no, I want to say to you, keep going. Be consistent. Embrace the journey. There's something great as you take each step every day, every week. That consistency will bear so much fruit. Let's take Steph Curry, for example, right? We all know Steph Curry, one of the greatest shooters in the history of NBA, one of the best shooters of all time. He shoots hundreds, and I want to say that again, literally hundreds of shots every day. Why? It's not just for one big moment, but because he knows that consistent effort is what makes someone great. And the lesson here, it's not about one big achievement. It's not just about this one big goal. It's about the grind. It's about the practice. It's about the day-to-day work and the day-to-day effort that you put in. Okay, there's another basketball player, the GOAT, Michael Jordan. We all know Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan didn't become a legend because he avoided or ran away from failure. He's missed over 9,000 shots. Get that. 9,000 shots in his career. He's lost hundreds of games, and he even failed to make his high school basketball team at first. But do you know what he did? He just embraced that process. He learned from every setback, and he used that failure as a fuel for his growth. In this podcast, I also want to look at what science says and what research says about these topics that we're talking about. So there's this great insight from research, and Carol Dweck's growth mindset is a really cool research for you. And Carol Dweck is a really known psychologist and author, and she's published so many books and a number of really solid research about growth and about personal development. And she studied students and found that the ones with a growth mindset, like that belief that you can get better with effort, they performed way better than the ones who thought that they were just naturally smart or they're not smart. And why is that? Why did those students perform greater than others? It's because they weren't afraid to fail. They weren't scared of failing or making a mistake. They saw challenges as opportunities to grow. Another great research is the study on neuroplasticity, and it's basically how your brain can change. Neuroplasticity is this fancy, sciencey way of saying that your brain can rewire itself, it can reshape and remold itself. So even if you've struggled with something for years, you can still grow, adapt, and improve. And guess what? All it takes is consistent effort. That's it. Now, I'm sharing all of this, right? I want to ask you the question, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about what you're hearing, what you're learning? Maybe it's this podcast or another podcast or a book that you've just read or a video, a really motivational video that you've just watched, or maybe someone's encouraged you with something or challenged you, maybe a family member. I want to ask you, what are you going to do about all of that? Because it's all good and well that you're listening and there's that desire to improve, but ultimately you need to act upon it. You need to do something about it. So whether you're trying to learn a new skill, build confidence, or trying to overcome something really difficult, I want you to remember that every little step, it rewires your brain. Every little step, you're literally building the foundation for your future wins, for the future trophies and medals and awards. And some you may see, some you may not. But I want you to know that all of the decisions that you're making now has to be wise, good decisions. And that's how you thrive in your growth journey. There's this quote, and people say it's from Winston Churchill. Some people say it's not. But you know what? It doesn't really matter. But basically, he said, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. I'm going to say that again. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And I want to say to you today, have courage to continue. Keep going. Even if it looks tough, even if it feels tough, keep going anyways. There's an encouraging Bible verse that I think could be really good for this topic. And it says in Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. This verse is such a solid reminder that you're never alone in your growth journey. No matter what you're facing, no matter what challenges come your way, you've got the strength to face them when you rely on your faith. Now, I want to give you 5 quick tips on how to embrace your growth as a journey. Number 1, focus on consistency over perfection. Small, consistent steps instead of trying to do everything perfectly. Instead of trying to do all things according to how you imagined it and how you expected it. No. Small, consistent steps. Because progress matters a lot more than perfection. Now, I don't know who needs to hear that today, but you don't have to be perfect. I'm going to say that again. You don't have to be perfect. Okay, I'm going to move on. Number 2, reflect often. Reflect often. Just take a moment to look back and see how far you've come. Celebrate those small wins because they all add up. Every single one of them. No matter how small, how big, they all add up. If you don't know what to celebrate, if you don't know how to reflect on your wins, ask someone that you trust and say, what good things do you think has happened in my life recently? Hey, what kind of wins do you think I can celebrate right now? Number 3, stay curious. Keep challenging yourself even when you think that you've made it or you're doing really well and it's really successful wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Stay curious because growth stops when you stop learning. Next, this is the 4th tip on how to embrace growth as a journey. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Setbacks, they're not failures, they're lessons. There's always something to learn from them. So be patient and give yourself grace. Allow yourself to heal. Allow yourself to step back. Allow yourself to fail and just go again. Allow yourself to rest. Just be kind to yourself. And the last tip on how to embrace growth as a journey, never stop learning. Never stop learning. Whether there's podcasts, books, conversations, videos, or just, asking people around you, asking people that you trust, the people that you admire, maybe just having a coffee with them. Never stop learning. Whatever helps you grow, keep seeking it out. Keep going. Keep growing. Because growth is about staying open to learning, no matter where you are. Hey, lastly, there's this great book that I would recommend to all of my listeners, and that's Atomic Habits by James Clear. This is a great book. This book is something that you should read. Maybe that's Audible or get a physical book. For me, I like physical books. If you're really serious about growth, read this. If you're finding it difficult to build good habits and stop bad habits, if you're finding it difficult to invest in your growth through actions, this book is for you. It's all about that, how small, consistent changes, how they can lead to big results. It's super practical, it's super actionable, and is exactly what you need to embrace growth as a journey. Now, in every episode of this podcast, I also want to dedicate a section where I challenge my listeners. And this week, I want to challenge you to reflect. Maybe you're already really good at this, but maybe some of you have never reflected ever. Or maybe some of you have reflect once a year, I don't know. But this week, think about one area of your life where you're focused on the destination. So think about that one area of your life right now where you simply focus on just the end goal. And I want to ask you this question. How can you start seeing that as part of your journey instead? How can you see that as part of something bigger, something greater? This is part of my growth journey. So reflect on that. What is that one thing? And then how can you start seeing that as part of your journey? Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and comment on there as well. It's at Tim Saying on Instagram. Share your thoughts, your wins, or even your struggles. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in today to the very first episode of Tim Saying. Remember, growth is a journey, not a destination. Keep moving forward. I'll see you in the next episode.